Girl, what do you mean hidden costs? I'm trying to make money, not spend it by selling a house. I know, same here, honestly. Let's walk through it together. First of all, we're gonna do a walkthrough before we even sign any paperwork about listing your house to make sure that it has all the repairs and upgrades it needs to get you the most bang for your buck, the most value back for your home sale and home equity possible. Why would we do that? Well, kitchens and bathrooms sell houses. Certain things get an ROI that get you more money back on a home sale than you ever spend for the cost of it. Sometimes there's little things that will immediately turn off a buyer. If it needs to cost $50, $100 to get rid of that thing or fix that thing up, that's worth doing because an offer for $100, I'd take it any day. How about kitchens and bathrooms selling houses? Like I said, those could cost anywhere from $5,000 to $25,000 just for a standard upgrade. But if you're gonna get more in your ROI and offers for that, it still makes it worth it. So let's do a personal consult so that you and I can make a list of what repairs you're willing to do, what we've got time for, and what's actually gonna make you more money. This next set of hidden costs really depends on what you and your agent have agreed to. So there's lots of things to prepare a home for listing and marketing it in its best light. That's totally property dependent, by the way. A farm gets marketed very different than a townhome in the middle of the city. So do you need drone photography? Do you need a videographer for a walkthrough tour? Do you need a 3D tour with a Matterport device showing you how to get from room to room? Professional photography, staging, all of these things are things to consider that market your home better and might also give you ROI because of making it have the perception of being brighter, lighter, more exhilarating than your camera photos. One time there was a for sale by owner local to this part of Virginia, I'm not going to say where, but if you know, you know, who was listing his house for sale on his own and took his pictures himself with his camera phone in the nude. And don't you know, it's just the craziest things. Oven doors have reflections. Anybody else remember that? Fun times. So when I say professional photography is worth it, please, for the love of Doug, let the professionals do their job, including me. You know, there's another thing that kind of combines those first two, the repairs and the marketing, and that is a pre-listing home inspection. You have the opportunity to do a home inspection before your house is listed. But don't buyers normally pay for that? Yes, and it gives you a huge value add because, well, several reasons. First, you get to be made aware of what the issues are and get ahead of them. If you can even fix some of them before even listing, you get to have a home inspection that makes the buyers want to offer on your house even more because now they don't have to pay for a home inspection. You waive a potential contingency, which is an opportunity for a buyer to walk away. So that's risk mitigation for you. And you get to have a home inspection that has a bunch of check marks on it saying done, done, done. Doesn't that look good to a buyer? And wouldn't it make them potentially want to offer more or at least get you your list price because they know that you've been paying attention and you've been taking care of it so they don't have to negotiate for those little piddly things. Here's another secret. If you use me as your listing agent in one of my compensation packages, I'll pay for that pre-listing home inspection for you. How about negotiations? This is one that's pretty obvious to most people, but not everybody thinks of it. So just because you have a list price doesn't mean that's the same number as your sale price. Sometimes it's higher, sometimes it's lower. You want to be prepared and have a strategy with your agent. I personally give my clients a net sheet, letting them know what to expect. That is, starts with a sale price and then has all the things that could potentially happen, that normally happen, to know what are you actually going to walk away with as a net price. Because people get that listing number in their head. Not only do they forget, sometimes people will negotiate up or down, but they also spend that money in their head right off the bat. That's not the money you're walking away with, honey. Especially if you have a mortgage, you got to pay that sucker off first. So these are things that we need to talk about up front to figure out what you're actually going to be able to do with this money and what buying power you have for where you're going next. Next up, agent compensation. I could go on and on about this because in August 2024, there was a lawsuit started in California that changed a couple things for the real estate industry as a whole. But for now, I'll keep it simple. I'll do another video on that later. Keeping it simple means you are the seller, you are obligated to pay your seller's agent compensation for their services. And sometimes in this area, we do see buyers asking for their buyer's agent's compensation to be covered or offset partially by the seller. There's advantages and disadvantages, and you need to talk about what those are in our financial strategy planning session, but be aware, there are also compensation costs as well. Next up, we fast forward to closing, right? Wonder if you're going to use an attorney or maybe a closing company. In Virginia, the buyer has the right to choose the closing company. You can also hire your own separate attorney to prepare your own personal documents for you if you'd like, but that's going to be an extra expense at your cost. Most closing companies locally won't charge a seller if they're doing the seller and the buyer side of the transaction, but it's up in the air. Know that whoever gets chosen as a closing company, you might have some extra fees there, and you have the right to hire your own additional services if you'd like. But the closing documents, the final payment, final paperwork, all has to go through the same company that the buyer has the right to choose. There is a spot in the contract that saves you as a seller from overpaying too much, so negotiate that section as well to protect yourself. Next up, Guarantor's tax, sometimes also called transfer tax. When you are transferring one property from one name to another in the state of Virginia, there's a tax for that. Here, it's $1 for every $1,000. So if you're selling your house for $325,000, your guarantor's tax on your final ledger that will be due and pulled out of your profits, as long as you're making a profit, would be $325. $325,000, Pretty easy math. That's guarantor's tax. And you've got to make sure you factor that into your budgeting of what's going to be coming out on closing day. Also required in the state of Virginia is anytime a residential property changes hands, you have to have a wood-destroying insect pest inspection, usually called a termite inspection or a pest inspection, but it does specifically concentrate on wood-destroying insects because most structures around here are made from wood. So the seller is obligated to do that inspection. If the inspection finds evidence or damage from wood-destroying insects, then you cover it up to a certain amount, or you renegotiate the terms of your contract now that you have this unexpected expense. You gotta have an agent or somebody who knows how to negotiate on your behalf, so look out for that if you're representing yourself, but I can do that for you. Another requirement if you live in the state of Virginia is a well water test. So you only have to test for two things: E. coli and coliform, not rag coliform. It's different. I don't remember how to pronounce it, but it's different. The two types of bacteria that are required to be tested for in the state of Virginia. There are lots of other things that you could test for, and a buyer is welcome to do that on their own if they'd like. But if you have a well, you are required as a seller to make sure that the water is safe by testing for those two types of bacteria, and you have to have a certified well inspector to do that. This one is very situational. It's capital gains tax. If you have not lived in the property you're selling for 2 of the last 5 years, you might be subject to capital gains tax. So if it's been a rental for 10 years, you're probably going to be paying capital gains tax, but there's a trick. If you are rolling money, profit from one rental property or investment property into another investment property within a specific window of time, then you can defer those taxes until you no longer roll it. Essentially, you don't have to pay the tax until you take out the profit. But if you're rolling the profit, you can defer it till later. So it's completely situational depending on the property use and what your larger financial big picture plan is for investing. But let's talk through that as a strategy because we might be able to save you some money there. Now let's talk about moving. Are you hiring a moving company? Are you getting your friends beer and pizza for helping you? Do you need to go get boxes and packaging tape and bubble wrap? Those are all things that are expenses too, but a lot of people skip over them because they just go magically from closing to, oh, I moved in my next place. But that's not always how it happens. Also, are you moving to a new place where you need to get utilities on in advance? They may require deposits if you don't already have an account set up at that place. As the seller, you're also required to keep utilities on at the home you're selling until the day of closing. Same for your taxes and insurance. You're responsible for all of that up to the day of closing.